Everyone is vulnerable to being pinned when life plays hardball, whether it is a physical or mental health condition. No one can stand alone. For those who are not pinned, appreciate that it could be you or loved one someday. So when you see a chance to help someone, please do. They are not weak, they are pinned. Even a slight hand up and a listening ear can begin seriously lightening the load, change, or save a life. Help end stigma. Move from being pinned to purpose. Time for a hand up.
Hello, everyone. My name is Geoff Moore. I'm the founder of the Pinned2Purpose Podcast, and it's a huge pleasure for me today to welcome two guests who actually have become friends as well, Martina Fuchs and also Maejor, the Grammy-nominated recording artist, and who they both have founded an organization called the Frequency School, which is going to be the main focus of our podcast today. Before I start and provide a bit more of an introduction, I just want to mention to people, maybe who haven't seen this podcast before, that it's been founded to help shatter stigma, to have conversations about mental health and well-being, and to give people a hand up on their healing journeys. So by bringing amazing guests like Martina and Maejor and talking about their experiences and also what they're doing in the world, hopefully that gives a hand up to some of our viewers who may be having tougher times right now and realizing we're all human and, you know, there's no shame in asking for a hand up. So thank you both so much. Maybe I'll say a couple of words for each of you to introduce you, and then I'll pass it over as well so you can say a bit more, and then we'll get into more details. So for Maejor, as I mentioned, you're a Grammy-nominated producer turned artist and innovator, and you've shaped global pop from behind the scenes as a performer and pioneering new ground through your Frequency School, exploring the intersection of sound, healing, and human potential. And over time, you've also worked with other amazing artists, and I know for yourself, I've been listening more to some of your tunes lately as some of my kids have, so I really enjoy those. And you've also worked with people such as, you were one half of the electronic duo Area 21 with Martin Garrix, and you've also produced songs for a variety of global stars, including Justin Bieber. So it's really a huge pleasure to have you, Maejor. Thanks so much for taking the time and coming out to share your story and that of the Frequency School. And you have an amazing business partner and friend, Martina Fuchs, who I've gotten to know, who I don't know. I've struggled to learn 2 languages. So I believe, how many languages do you actually speak, Martina? Or you know many languages.
9 in total, Jeff, but I'm trying to learn the 10th, which is the most important one, the universal language of music as a DJ. But I'm still an amateur, but at least making some efforts.
That's incredible. So in addition to that, you're an international business journalist, moderator, entrepreneur, and known for your work with global media outlets such as CNN and Xinhua. And you have a strong focus on business, finance, geopolitics, interviewed world leaders, CEOs, and change makers across Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. And beyond your journalism, you together with Maejor and some of your other colleagues who have had the good fortune to meet some of them, have produced this incredible movement called the Frequency School. So why don't I stop, and I'd like to pass it over to each of you. And maybe if you don't mind, I'll ask Maejor to say a couple of words first, if that's okay. And then, to talk about yourself and let's get started.
Absolutely. Thank you, Geoff, for having us. We're really grateful to connect with you. Pinned2Purpose is a great title because we always believe about how can we be intentional about what we're creating in the world, and how can we be, purpose is a big title. There's actually an album that I was a part of working on. It was called Purpose. It was very successful, but it was all about, I often think about what is our purpose here, and if we can be in service for others, I think that's always a great opportunity and a great bar to reach for. So thank you for creating the show, especially, as you said, reaching out for people who are going through challenges. There's so many of us, me included, as a lot of people in this world have had many challenges. Everyone has had challenges, and so if we can remember that we're connected and we're one, I think that's a great way for us to all come together and to lift everyone up. So thank you for having us.
Fantastic. And over to you, Martina.
It has been a beautiful journey so far. We all met with Maejor and our three other co-founders about 18 months ago in Lisbon at a conference called Web Summit. And instantly we felt that we have a bigger mission on this planet, and shared this vision of bringing music and sound frequencies and social impact, wellness, education around the world. And we focused on sound experiences that Maejor did with his music production, on workshops and classes for charity organizations, children, underserved communities, but also business executives. Traveled to some 14 countries already, and really felt an incredible resonance, a lot of demand and appetite for what we are doing. So that also shows, especially since COVID-19 and the mental health pandemic, that we have a bigger job to do here in this world, especially what is going on right now in many countries with the geopolitical challenges. And so we have started the frequency school at a boarding college called Eglo in Switzerland, and have now started to experiment with different modalities. We're working on a curriculum for schools. We're working on kinetic structures and sculptures that emit light and sound frequencies. We're also rolling out our impact initiative, because just like you, Pinned2Purpose, we all care about impact, where we want to build wellness labs and music studios in poor cities and communities around the world. The first one was just launched in New Delhi with our partner Harmony House. Next one hopefully in Dharamshala, and then South Africa and Brazil. So we shared this vision of, a global movement, but we have to plant seeds obviously first. We had a big year last year in 2025, and you were a witness, Geoff, as well, with the Guinness World Records that we set with the 195 song, which was the first song in the world that featured every country on the planet, with one woman per country sing the word equality in her mother tongue. And then Maejor produced the 528 hertz love frequency, used the sound of birds and the heartbeat of the women. And then on 11/11, we launched the World Frequency Day, with a global flagship event here in Dubai, and then dozens of satellite activations around the world to show unity, because 11/11, of course, stands for the number one, unity. And we had a global moment at 11:11 a.m. and 11:11 p.m. And so from this global moment, we had a little ripple effect, and it's slowly but surely turning into a global movement, with more and more people joining and being interested in our work. So thanks to you, Geoff, and everybody supporting us, that we are making this possible.
Oh, it's amazing. There's so much to talk about there, and I want to get into each of your individual journeys a little bit to get here. And I wanted to mention something interesting that I heard today, and maybe you've heard this, but when you're talking about the sound of birds, I saw a little post online about somebody talking about a bird landing on a branch and saying, "Do you think the bird is worried about the branch breaking? If the branch breaks, they're going to fly and they're going to go to the next branch. So if you're the bird, take care of yourself. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself. The branches are going to break in your life, but if you're relying on something else, somebody else all the time, the bird is going to fly, and the bird is going to find new friends, and the bird is going to go somewhere." So I just mentioned that because I thought it was quite beautiful, and I think it is beautiful. I've heard some of your work, and hearing the birds is incredibly soothing. Maejor, I'd like to ask you if there are some things you might want to share as well, because I know you've had a difficult journey and different health challenges along the way. That it's wonderful that you have dealt with these things in terms of cancer and things. And so, but I think I imagine if there's anything you want to share about overcoming, and also that being a piece of your own kind of motivation for making the most of life and contributing, as since you're such an incredible musician, artist, producer.
No, thank you. I love what you say about the birds, and also I recognize something I share about the sound of the birds. It typically only happens when there's peace, and so the sound of birds can signal to our nervous system that it's okay to relax. When you hear birds chirping, that's a sign of a peaceful environment. And so, yes, I love that what you said also about the bird's not nervous of if the branch is going to break. You know, they can fly. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah. So my journey as a cancer survivor, young, it really kind of makes you think about what's important in life when you go through something like that. It makes you, for me, it made me think about many things that I was putting off to the future, about how can I implement some of those ideas now and start to not take the future for granted. You know, a lot of times we say when we're older, we'll do this, but going through that experience really just open for me. And I think, I mean, everything is, I look at like almost a yin and a yang. So while that was a challenge, it was also one of my greatest gifts because it's introduced me to, first, it made me relatable to a lot of people who I didn't realize how widespread, you know, almost everyone has someone in their family that they've experienced or lost or gone through something like this experience. So been a, you know, a connection point, and as well as started to kind of also introduce me into the world of wellness, which is where I got introduced to a lot of these ideas around sound, vibration, and all of these, just many alternative forms of healing, even outside of that, came through my experiences that and people wanted to share and support. And so, you know, yeah, I'm actually it's something that I'm grateful for. It's allowed me to, you know, connect. As I said, sometimes we go through even some of the challenging experiences that are happening now. You see communities and people come together during that time. The human spirit, we all through a challenge. When we go through something together, some people even call it, you know, trauma bonding in a sense. And there's some truth to that as well. Like, so you know, I think even when I looked at the experience of the pandemic, I think I was like a kind of the first global shared experience. And I think that there is an opportunity in when everyone goes through something together to hopefully come a little bit closer and, you know, remember that we are all one.
Mhm. Yeah, wonderful. And Martina, are there a couple of things you might want to share in terms of your own background that, you know, have really led you on this journey earlier on?
Mhm. I was born in very privileged and protected and safe Switzerland, right? It's a financial hub, beautiful country, high living standard, incredible landscape, absolutely breathtaking. But it's quite small, just 8 million people. And even though we speak 4 national languages, it's actually quite narrow-minded. I think it's a little bit this valley mentality. And so I felt the need to break out of the system very early on and study languages, you know, like Swahili or Arabic and then Chinese. And I just want to become like a journalist who discovers new stories, who is curious and connects people through communication. I felt that there was a huge cultural misunderstanding always in the world, and I wanted to bridge people, bring them together, just like in the spirit of unity that Maejor mentioned. And so between Europe and Africa, Latin America, Australia, and the Middle East and Asia, just, you know, go all out. And that's why I studied so many languages as well. And this is how I found a lot of purpose in what we're doing now with the Frequency School. And I think this is the biggest purpose in life, to have a purpose. And that gives me a lot of meaning. So for me, even coming, you know, from a wealthy nation like Switzerland, money is absolutely not important. Nothing could pay for what we are doing. This mission that we are on, and seeing, you know, people happier after, you know, they have a sound bath with Maejor, and just, yeah, being in this you know, community together, which is growing day by day, is just absolutely wonderful to witness and be part of.
Oh, that's amazing. And Maejor, I wanted to ask you, so you've been in music as an artist, singer, songwriter, producer for a long time. So, you know, your experiences have allowed you to, you know, to come up with what you've come up with today for the Frequency School. And, you know, I'm not a musician, but I definitely love concerts and get super inspired by all types of music, and can see in the crowd how amazing and uplifting it can be for everyone, a universal language. And yet you're on the stage. You're not, you know, you're not I'm sure you're listening to your friends and other artists, but you are an artist. So you're on the stage. So I'm wondering your perspective looking out and realizing how much you can really uplift people, and then how does that translate into, again, the beautiful work you guys are building out and doing it with the Frequency School.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, being a musician makes you realize like it's kind of like a little bit of magic when you see it's like invisible frequencies that connect us all together and puts us all in the same rhythm, and everyone can now dance together and everyone can connect. And so, yeah, when I realized the power of music, I initially really wanted to, going from, like you say, from the studio, you create something with just a few people or by yourself, and then you see it connecting to large groups of people. You start to see, wow, this is really powerful. And so, I started to try to think of ways to be intentional with my sound and with my frequency, and use it with intention to, as you said, to lift people up. And then now I've been really thinking even more about just even to unite people, just to remind us that we are connected. I think a lot of the problems that happening in the world come from us forgetting that connection and that point of unity, and that we're all, I believe we're from the same source, and we're one. And so music can be a tool to just help dissolve that illusion of separation. And so, yeah, be seeing it as a performer or as a creator, even if yeah, sometimes I'm the performer on the stage, or sometimes it's watching someone perform something that I've created. You can really see that connectedness and that ability, that power of that sound and how it brings us all together. It's really like really mind blowing when you think about it. Yeah, I mean, there's been some moments now too, even performing or watching, and I'm just like, it's interesting. So now people have introduced the phones into the concerts, into the experience. And so part of me is like, wait, what? Why are we not connected here? In a sense, why are you watching it through the screen? But then I have to remember also that's maybe connecting with people who are at home, seeing it, or thousands of miles away. And so it's just still a connection tool. It's just, with technology, things are changing really fast. And so I just, always want to try to find that point of where we can find that connection point, like you said. And yeah, I think that I would also be like a little bit of a hypocrite to criticize social media, because that's kind of like was my break into music. I'm from a town in Michigan where I didn't know anyone in the music industry. I didn't have a friend or family or a local studio. So technology was the internet was my way kind of into this world. So yeah, just try to always see what is the best thing we can do, and how can we use it for something positive and to lift people up or tell a story that resonates.
That's amazing. Well, I wanna tell all of our viewers they really should go and watch the 195 online from the Frequency School. And I want to ask you more, Martina. I was watching it every day for a while, and then I got out of that discipline. But anytime I watch it, it's an emotional thing. I mean, I have my wife, daughters. The world is we need to have more gender equality across the board, and that's what you're talking about. But and I'm very happy for you, deservedly, that you all won a Guinness Book of World Records, designation for this song. So if you can talk, I know you spoke a bit about it, but maybe talk a bit more, because it's so powerful. And you have all of these different women with different backgrounds, but sharing that common humanity and bond. And wouldn't, with everything that's going on in the world right now, isn't there hopefully someday, and I want to remain an idealist in part all my life, realist and idealist, like if we can ever have that equality, wouldn't it be a bit of a very different place? So
Absolutely, Geoff. I love what you said about idealist and realist. We have to be both, right? Still dreaming in this world, because I think that's what also keeps us alive. When I was a little girl, I had the dream also of producing or contributing to a song one day that really features every country on the planet. And so with the team, when, we discussed here in Dubai, actually at some point in a car, that was in October 2025, this dream, and I told them about it. They were like, well, you got to do it. If someone can do it, Maejor said, it's you. And so that's added just a little bit of pressure. And so I was like, let's do this. We knew that we would go to the World Economic Forum in Davos a few months later in January 2026. And so we, just had a few months left. And then I went on a kind of world tour to find one woman per country to say the word equality. And it was much harder than I initially thought, because with what we just discussed with social media and the phone, you think that you have a friend everywhere. And according to the United Nations, there are 195 countries, but there were a lot of difficult, in terms of access, politics, gender equality countries in the Vatican or North Korea or in Micronesia, So I mobilized friends and family, and everybody supported. So we finished the marathon. We reached the line, and so we had one woman per country. And it just is still overwhelming, because we have this WhatsApp group, everybody, contributes, everybody's part of it. And I really hope that this sends out a message to the next generation of girls as well, that gender equality is so important, and we're nowhere close to gender parity. If you read all these reports by the World Economic Forum, it takes like 112 years from now to reach complete gender equality. And I'm sure if we had more female leaders, and if the world was ruled by women, it would be in a different state and place right now.
Yeah. Maejor, you've already been doing work in many countries, as you said, and the music that you bring to the world is for all ages. You work with children, you can work with anybody, right? Because it's a human experience. But I don't know if you'd like to pick, one or two examples of specific work that you're doing in particular countries, and what's been exciting and rewarding so far.
Yeah, well, I was grateful to do, as we talk about the music as a universal language, I was grateful to work with artists there was an artist from Colombia who we did a collaboration of a English and Spanish song. So it shows how two languages can exist in the same world and in harmony. And I was grateful for that one. We did 432 hertz. And then as well, I have a series coming out with music with National Geographic, and it's music from all over the world. And some of the sound, the nature elements were taken from different locations in the world, and shows how we're also connected with nature as well through vibration. There's a circadian rhythm every day that happens, which is the earth's rhythm. There's like we mentioned, there's the birds, which have their own song, the waves. So yeah, I think that everything for me has been lately about connection and how to remind us that we're all connected. So really grateful for music for that reminder. Like, even at the video shoot for the artist I worked with, her name is Gracie, for this English and Spanish song I mentioned, we could barely speak to each other. And, I know limited Spanish, it's limited English, but when the music came on, now we're connected and we're one. Yeah. So it's the power of music.
And for you, I mean, when you're doing work in the studio, but then you're talking about nature and things. So are you like partially doing it in the studio, then you're going out into nature, and then you're kind of combining all of these, ingredients, so to speak, that's not the right word, but you know what I mean? Just how do you get your inspiration?
That's it. So we record some elements, either myself or different members of the team, or different people will go out and record actually elements from the real world. And I say the real world as meaning like from nature. And the good thing about that is when you get a recording of a sound, even if it's, beach waves or something, that's the only time that it's going to sound exactly like that. It's a unique moment, just like every sunset is unique, just like every, if I record some bird sounds, it's the only time, that we will get it from that distance, from that space, where they'll make that specific frequency. And that's what's awesome. And it's awesome, about every single person as well. They have a unique frequency that only you have, and it's different every day. And like each person has fingerprint that's only theirs. Sound has that property as well.
I wanted to ask a general question to both of you, and it is really about stigma and your thoughts on it, and what's maybe holding people back sometimes, or what else can be done. Um, as you know, there's a bench press analogy with this podcast. So it does demonstrate that all of us have a breaking point. Doesn't matter who you are, and there's no shame in taking a hand up. But stigma is ingrained in many cultures and many histories, and ultimately, I think it's a personal decision if somebody wants to be opening up more broadly, or just feeling like they need to speak to a doctor, a good friend, or make sure they're not doing it alone. But I just wanted to ask both of you if you have any thoughts on that, and are we progressing in society? And again, I know that that's a big question because you're both global citizens, but how do you feel about that, and more conversation about mental health and realizing it is critical, or it's a key beautiful aspect of our common humanity?
Communication is absolutely key. So I lived for a long time in China, for about 5 years. And even after the pandemic, mental health is still a huge taboo. Also because of the huge impact of social media and the influence, of course. So nobody wants to, look weak, or share some personal issues that they have, what they go through. It's changing a little bit, but it will take time. So mixed, with that comes also cultural issues, and some very conservative traditions might not want to talk about certain issues in the public as well. So they keep it at home or just for themselves. And that, of course, is not helpful at all. And this is where all the mental health issues and problems arise. And then it's like a vicious circle. And then new problems emerge, right? Like I'm in Dubai right now, and we have never experienced missile and drone attacks like over the last few weeks, and people react differently. Some are panicking, some are escaping and fleeing, some are much tougher and stronger than you think they are. So I think the new challenges in the world, whether it's of financial, geopolitical, personal, any kind of dimension, is just putting us to new tests. And it's very surprising how you yourself also discover how you are and how you tick and how you think, but it's definitely adding a lot of new challenges that we should, as humans, solve first of all before we turn to AI. So I think
exactly.
it's like speeding up and becoming like a hamster in a wheel now.
Exactly. Well, before I pass it to Maejor too, I want to say, I'm grateful for you taking the time today. I stay safe, and I really appreciate everything you're doing. So, Maejor, I don't know if you want to add anything to that, or if not, that's also fine. It's I just think it's an interesting question, because just to go back one more time, why I like the analogy as one reference point, just one, but one reference point about the bench press is it can show that people are not weak, but they can be in a weakened state. And I think that's an interesting differentiation. Weights will show that it doesn't mean you're weak, but you're in a weakened state because you've been trying to carry stuff for way too long. And I think that's a nuance that is a good point for conversation, and hopefully will help reframe a little bit. But anyway, I just want to add that because it's part of what I'm trying to bring out as one idea. But I'll pass it to you if there's anything else, Maejor, you'd like to say on that, or we can continue on to other topics too.
No, I love your analogy of the weights, because it's like, through everyone is affected by something, no matter how strong they may look or seem. Different things affect different people differently, and so I think it's important for us to always have compassion for others, and to really understand that everyone's fighting a battle that we may not know about or see. And so I as well send my love to all of the people now who are in war zones and areas and conflict areas, and some areas of famine, of poverty, of like where the entire place is being destroyed. You know, homes are being lost for a lot of people, and so I think it's always important for us uh, to have compassion and to, you know, think about others who are maybe not as privileged as us, and to always, you know, and if we can, to do something helpful for them if we can. And even sometimes that's just sending some love or sending, you know, what we can and what we can do to support them. It's like you say, everyone is facing challenges, and, you know, it doesn't mean that they're a weak person because they're facing challenges. We all do. And it's just about, you know, how do we overcome that? And also, you know, you grow, just like the bench press example. That's when you grow, is from doing something hard. You know, if it's really light, you don't have any growth. When it's really challenge is where the growth comes. And so I try to remind myself that as well when I'm going through something challenging, to remind myself that that's where I have an opportunity to grow. If I can just, you know, breathe, be present, and make it through.
Beautiful. I want to bring out another idea to talk a bit about, and I've mentioned this to you guys a little bit before, but I always love to bring out the thinking about, you know, the value of time, and maybe why we can't stop more to have that gratitude at different points, and some of us do, and some of us, you know, rush through years. But I just want to go to my 105-year-old relative, who I told you, you know, his way of coping was waking up every morning, going to the mirror in the elder care place and saying, "Oh, good, you're still here." So he would just joke every morning, and then, you know, and he'd say happy birthday to himself every day. But one thing that reminds me of is I've heard this before, and it makes sense. Like 25 years from now, the three of us and everyone else would trade to be back 25 years, and you'd probably trade almost everything. So, you know, you think of like, okay, if you feel old at a certain age or something, you're the youngest you'll ever be going forward, you know? And so it's just this philosophical part. And I think, again, you know, huge hats off to you guys for what you're doing with the Frequency School and bringing people together. But the philosophy in different ways. And obviously, you know, Martina, you with 10 languages and being polyglot and all of these things, there's so many religions, etc. But there's also our common humanity and some simple things. And so I just throw it out there if there's any other thoughts on that or anything, and then we can go back more to the Frequency School.
Time is one of the most precious commodities, right? It's like freedom. You can't really buy it. Switzerland is very famous for watches and very precise, always on time. But I think also thanks to the Frequency School and our team, I really learned also how to live in the moment and be grounded, because I was always on the run, looking into the future or thinking about the past and worrying what is going to happen. And also this crisis now here in the Gulf and the war really teaches me this lesson so, like, you know, deeply. And you really, really want to make a bigger impact. You want to work harder. You appreciate that, as you said, every day is one step closer to your death. And so you just want to, you know, not work more, not work harder, but smarter, and just really focus on the big projects that actually can move the needle. So yeah, this is something that also comes with age and maturity, also traveling and just being inspired by people around you, and also seeing the value of your work and, you know, the feedback that you get along the way. So that's a great question.
And I wanted to say one more thing on that, because I do like it. It's almost, there's a Winnie the Pooh cartoon for this too, but it's talking about, you know, somebody's worrying about that one day they're going to die, but every other day you're going to live. So obviously we're focused on the joy and the celebration of our lives. Maejor, I want to invite you to say anything else you'd like to say also on the Frequency School, or for our listeners. They can obviously go to your website. They can see what you're doing. Hopefully they'll be able to join you at one of the many events that you're involved with around the world, or reach out if they have their own organization that's interested in partnering with the frequency school. But I wanted to invite you to share anything else you'd like to about, what you're building, where you'd like to be, and how listeners, might want to look into it.
Absolutely. So, the initial vision of the Frequency School was to be able to share things that we wish we learned at school. And everyone has something different from that. And I believe that, the next generation is there's quotes in every tradition, but one I can think of from the Bible where it says, train up a child in the way they should go, and when they are old, they will not depart. So it's like almost like what you can learn from when you're young, it sticks in your brain. We're also in a different brainwave state. And so, we have this vision of working now, finishing some curriculum, and doing all of these ideas so that some of the things we're talking about here, even about what if kids were at school talking about purpose and talking about intention and learning that they're not weak, they're just in a weakened state. So bringing, many of these ideas into the next generation is where we're focused on, as well as, just reminding us that we're all one and connected, and music is a great tool for that. So just trying to use my opportunities of things that I've been grateful to experience, like music and journeys and lessons, some of the lessons I learned in the studio or from different artists, and bring that to a demographic of people around the world, to help. Hopefully, they find some resonance and to bring some good energy to their world as well. And then through the ripple effect, they can share that with the next person, next person, and then this is how we can make an impact. So this is my
That's
thoughts
great.
about what we're creating now. Yeah, and we're
That's
just
great.
getting started with it. Yeah.
Super. And Martina, is there any additional thoughts on that, or we have a few more minutes, we can talk about some other things as well. But
So last year, we really had a great year in terms of raising awareness, right? We were planting a lot of seeds with the 195 and the Guinness World Records and the frequency circle at WEF in Davos earlier this year as well, and then 11/11, the World Frequency Day. But now it's really about seeing these seeds grow and flowers blossom. So we are all about collaboration. We always say that collaboration over competition. And the more we can collaborate with like-minded people, the better, because we believe that there is space for everyone, as long as you have a pure heart and good intentions. And so we are really excited about the future. And I can't wait to work with as many people in as many countries, all the 195 as possible.
it's fantastic. I'll bring up one other thing, and then we can wrap it up with a few more comments. But when you talked about, let's say, AI, and then our own brains, etc., there is this brain economy movement, right? And so obviously, and I think you guys do that too, you do work with different companies or organizations to help them, like pre-conference, etc. I think you did one of those recently in Germany. So there, for those who are focused on business and the bottom line, there's obviously huge benefits for healthy brains and brain skills, brain health and brain skills. So that is something that you guys are involved in too, right?
Yes, so we did in Germany. We had the frequency room, which we've had at a few different conferences, and it's an area for people to go to recharge, to listen to the frequency, to the energy of the music, to have a moment of reflection to themselves. And as you mentioned, in business, if one of the problems people face is burnout, and if we can help reduce that, which we can through meditation, through wellness, through frequency, through light, through sound. It's been a huge benefit for a lot of people in this experience.
Wonderful.
And also the
So we've
frequencies in neuroscience and all the medical research and development, that's definitely an area that is super interesting. And probably we're only just scratching the surface. So interesting times ahead.
That's amazing. And I know you've got a great team, and I've had a chance to meet, 3 other members of your team. So I will also, I didn't mention this to you, but I'll give you a chance if you want to do a little shout out to your colleagues, because I know that they do great work with you. But anyway.
Yes, we will shout out to Aaron Dawson, Kingsley Maduka, Brandon Lee, who are also co-founders with us as well and have been on many of our experiences. And as you mentioned, it takes a team to do anything. And so I believe that the sum is greater than the parts. So we're very grateful for our team, as well as there's many frequency friends and supporters and people, um,
Like you.
so many people, more than we could even list in one moment, but who have all played a part or a role in everything we do. So, it's all about the team and the collective.
That's fantastic. And if there's any other final things you'd like to share with the audience, we have covered a lot of ground. I think I will be putting the link to your website, and I encourage people to go and check it out and connect with you, and also to watch the 195 and watch what you're doing going forward. And 11/11, look out for World Frequency Day. It's very inspiring what you're doing. I congratulate you, and I'm glad that you could be guests today and give people a hand up and more reference points. People sometimes need to be invited back into community to get involved with an existing purpose. It doesn't always have to be on themselves, and that's part of what this is for, to remind people that it's we're all human, and people need a hand up, and the Frequency School is making a very important contribution to that. So anything else, guys, that you'd like to add, or it's up to you.
Yeah, I want to say just thank you again for your energy, for your commitment, for your service to the planet. And we think that, we resonate and harmonize well together. And so thank you for consistently doing this and for, helping lift people up. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Maejor.
Thank you so much, Geoff, for the opportunity and being a frequency friend as well. And to your viewers, we always have open doors and communication channels. So feel free to reach out to us to seek ways how you can collaborate or contribute. And as you mentioned, we have a World Frequency Day on 11/11 coming up, and we always look for organizers and ambassadors and members of the community who want to organize their own events in their own cities and locations. So very happy to collaborate.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both so much. Take care, be safe, and look forward to talking sometime soon.
Thank you, Geoff. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.